Well, for April 14th, Aphex Twin Day, Novation released a new OS with some very interesting features, including Aphex mode. Now, today I'm not using that in my tutorial, but I'm doing my own thing for Aphex Twin Day, April 14th, and I'm going to release it a few days later. I'm going to show you how to create the song Ageispolis using the Bass Station 2 and create each sound from scratch. Then we're going to add a little 808 drums to it. Here we go. Okay, so in honor of April 14th, I have decided to recreate Aphex Twin Ageispolis on the Bass Station 2. So when the song first starts, you hear that pluck sound. That's one that I came to know as Popcorn from the Juno. And there was also a song back in the day called Popcorn. So we'll start out with the init patch. And obviously it's too low. So we'll start with the range. Well, first of all, when you start the init patch, you're only listening to oscillator 1 over here on the mixer. And if you want to make sure, you can turn oscillator 2 down and make sure the oscillator 1 is up. Flip this switch, oscillator select switch, over to oscillator 1. Now we're working on oscillator 1. And we can hear that the sound is a couple octaves too low. So you start with the range button and you take that up to 2 feet. Now we're up in the right range and the waveform is wrong. It needs to be sine wave. Okay, so it sounds a little muddy and flat. That's okay, because we're going to fix that. You want to get more of a plucky sound by flipping your envelope select over to amp envelope. Turn all of those sliders down. As you're making patches, it's a good idea to move something all the way and then move it again, just to ensure that those are all on 0. And so you start moving up the decay setting until you get that plucky sound. So 2.5 sounds pretty good. And it's still a little muddy. You can use distortion to clean that up and make that sound a little pluckier. And I wouldn't advise that with any of these other waveforms like triangle and saw and stuff, or you really will get distortion, and that may be what you want. But with the sine wave, it's pretty safe to add distortion to it. And that sounds really crisp. And I'm using the Valhalla vintage verb on this. So I'll flip that on. Really close, really close. Now if you want to automate that and come up with some interesting melodies, you can just turn this where it says legato there, flip that on. So we're going to use the random arpeggiator. Flip this dial to random and then just hold down those 4 notes and turn the rhythm dial. Okay, now we're working on the string sound. We're back on the init patch. And the paraphonic mode will allow us to play 2 notes at once to do the nice string pad sound. So right now, I can't play 2 notes at once. And actually, I'm not even hearing the second oscillator because the init patch starts with the second oscillator down. So I'll make sure both oscillators are up on the mixer and that both oscillators are on the 8-foot saw wave. So there's oscillator 1, oscillator 2. So now they're both on the same program here. Now we've got to get into the paraphonic mode. So you want to hit function and hit oscillator 1 and 2 sync twice, and you see P0, so it's not in the paraphonic mode, and hit P1 and function. Now we're in the paraphonic mode and we can do a chord. Now strings are normally made up of a saw wave, so it's okay to just leave it a saw wave. So that's the chords, and it sounds overly bright, so we need to adjust the filter frequency a little bit. That sounds like a good starting point. It's just one notch above the middle. And in his song, the pad slowly fades in, so we need a slow fade of the pad, and we can use the amp envelope for that, but we also need a slow opening of the filter. You can hear it happen in the original. So we could adjust those both at the same time by going down here to amp and mod envelope adjust. And put the release at 0, the sustain about 5, decay about 5, and the attack maybe about 6. And we get a nice sounding pad there. And then the mod envelope depth knob here is going to control how much this envelope is opening up the filter as you hold down the keys. So about halfway. Okay, now we're going to work on the bass line. We're back at the init patch again. And we'll just use a simple sine wave. We'll move it down to 16 feet range. And move it to a sine wave. Now with his, there's a little bit of attack to it. So I think I'll use both the amp and mod envelope at the same time. Again, move all the sliders down and give it a little attack there. Give it a little mod envelope depth. Another new feature they've added to the Bass Station 2 is filter tracking. You probably noticed that as your bass sound gets further down, it's kind of weaker sounding. And filter tracking is a way to kind of even that out. And you get that by hitting function and filter frequency twice. And you see it says F0 in the display. Let's make that about a 4 so that as we move down, it sounds consistent in volume to our ears. And hit function again to get out of that. Okay, so here I am inside the box, and I've got my drum track recorded here, just the standard 808 drums that come with Ableton. And let me start adding first the Pluck, and then I'll add some strings, and here comes the bass.